Hello. All right. Recording has begun. So for everyone watching the replay and everybody here live, I really just want to take this time, similar to what we did last week, where we all kind of share about what's happening with the leadership of the country and whatnot. I don't have a lesson for today, so sorry, not sorry, because we don't really need a lesson in leadership right now, in my opinion, based on this group and what it is that we're doing. We've been studying leadership for a lot. Now is the time to implement what it is we've been learning. So if there's something that you've learned over the course of this course that you have been able to implement, that's like the law of navigation would be a great example of somebody who's charting out the road ahead during these unforeseen times, and how can we make the best of this road that we're having to travel on. But even if it's not COVID stuff, maybe it's just personal stuff, maybe it's business stuff inside of your own company. All sorts of people on this
I
table.
heard something that was very interesting today. I am the oldest person in the group, so I've gone through a lot more of life-changing challenges than everybody else. But when I was 6, 8, 10 years old, there was rough times in the United States. And I remember the government giving out cheese and things like that. Your father or your mother had to go stand in lines, and they would give out cheese. And I'm sure there were some other things, but it was mostly remembered was cheese. But I heard today that the world, not the world, the United States now has developed this whole concept of food cupboards. And that so many people in the United States now are able to go and receive donations to their family of food. And I started thinking about that, and that's tremendous, isn't it? That we have these big food banks in I believe they're in every state, and then every state has them in sub areas of the state, and then in big ones in our city is the one down on off of Main Street. And to be able to go to a food cupboard during these times and get not just cheese. I think we got cheese and bread and some maybe some eggs, but that was all the government could do at that time. And now we have these food cupboards where people can get fresh produce and baked goods and breads and vegetables and all that. And to me, that's just wonderful. Mm-hmm. And to think our church is still able to carry that on, even with this, it's breaking my heart that I can't attend the food cupboard. I did that for about 8 years, but according to the diagnosis of this disease, people that are diabetic, people that have had heart issues, and I had a valve replacement, and my wife has trouble with her lungs. Those are the 3 categories that are most acceptable to this disease. So I can't go in help because I might bring something back to my wife as well. And then I've had those 2 areas. But I just caught that about 3:30, 4 o'clock. I heard somebody was discussing that. And that's a remarkable change in our country, don't you think?
Yeah.
They're probably still giving out the cheese they gave out then, if you know about that cheese.
I remember as a 6 or 8 year old that was a lot we ate.
That cheese cheese and Twinkies will outlast us.
But
sorry, true.
But our government has come a long way, and our leaders have thought, maybe they didn't think it for something like this, but they showed pictures yesterday of 5 mile backup in Pennsylvania of people in their cars waiting to go to the food cupboards.
Wow.
So
Yikes.
Wow. Yeah. So that's interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Gary, is your family like delivering groceries?
Laura came up with an idea. She bounced it off Sandy just a while ago about instead of us having Easter together, that we would all create Easter and we would box it up and take it to people. Not just call them on the phone and say, we're bringing you some dinner for Easter. And so her and the girls are thinking about how to do that. We haven't ruled it in or ruled it out, but we're thinking.
Like one of the girls has all the sweet potatoes, and she stops at each of your house and drops off sweet potatoes, and somebody else.
I imagine we'd have to get together somewhere and divvy it up, but we wouldn't have to be with each other very long. So
I can't imagine it's easy for families, being it's just me and Gideon down here in the basement. I'm not alone, but for people who have families that are close, like you, Marissa, your family and Andrew's family is really close, and your family, Gary, are really close, what the impact is having on y'all.
Our young kids, Carson and Emily, our granddaughter, they're really struggling with, they've never experienced anything like this. And they're bummed because they can't go to school. And, but they're really bummed because we may not be able to take a family vacation. And that's been a tradition for 12 years that we've always got together and we went somewhere for a week or so. And so they're quite bummed about that.
Yeah, we're kind of homebodies, the Halls here, but we do occasionally, we'll go over to like Sam and Nancy's or her sister's or her brother's house here in the local Akron, Hartville area. And that's an impossibility. Thankfully, we went like right before quarantine struck, so that was good. But regardless, there's still almost that type of. Well,
you want to because you can't?
No, I meant like that. Well, maybe I shouldn't have.
It's good you took your vacation to Florida when you did.
Yeah, seriously.
Because our best friends just got back from Florida, and they had to come back in a panic because it's almost to the point where you can't cross state lines now, or you're going to have to be quarantined.
Yeah.
And especially if you're coming from places like New York and Manhattan and Connecticut, Massachusetts. So it's
I talked to my daughter down in Louisiana Monday night. They don't have counties, they have parishes. And in her parish, she works with a young girl named Chastity. Chastity's grandfather's the coroner, and Brittany told me Monday night that their first COVID death was in their parish because Chastity's grandfather had to go pick up the body. And I'm like, going, oh, it's like, okay, I want you to pack up and get up here right now where I can keep an eye on you. I can't really do that, but it's that thought.
Yeah. Well, I am pleased that we're in Ohio. I'm pleased that Governor DeWine, I think, has been doing a good preemptive job, along with Dr. Acton, to help keep us safe. I wasn't excited to hear the different news that was spilling out of his mouth over the last couple of weeks of all the different restrictions, because I kind of saw that he was going to take whatever action was assumed to be next immediately. As soon as it was like, hey, we maybe should shut down the businesses. Bam, we should shut down the business. Maybe we should quarantine. Bam, quarantine implemented. He's been taking effective action quickly, which has given him praise from both parties, from people who are just Democratic voters and people who are Republican voters. Doesn't matter. One of Marissa's friends who said, I don't agree with his politics, said like he's doing a good job leading the country, the state of Ohio right now. And
were you under the impression that over the last few years, the United States has been kind of thought of as we're not the smartest people in the world? These other countries have more college educated people and they're doing their scientific breakthroughs. But look what our colleges, our professors, our scientists have done in such a short period of time, and how all of our businesses have rallied around a cause and have looked at their strengths and their what they do best as individuals, and then they've teamed up to make bigger corporations or bigger associations to do bigger and bigger. Today they were talking about this 3D printing. I owned a printing company, so I know quite a bit about that stuff. But 3D printing was not around when I owned my company. It was something that was developed after that. But this company has created a way to 3D print knit face masks.
Wow.
And they're going to be able to do 1 million a day.
Wow.
Across the United States. Somebody came up with the algorithm or the CD or the software, and they're freely giving it away. And all these companies that have these printers are going to be able to download it and start making these things.
Wow.
And not only that, the mask can be used over and over and sensitized, cleaned.
Really clean. I don't know
Isn't it remarkable?
Yeah.
And our country is doing this. Our leaders, our corporations, that some small, some large, they're all working together. There's a this is an organization you guys should get involved with. It's called Bounce, B-O-U-N-C-E, and its headquarters on Main Street in the old B.F. Goodrich complex. And it's a group of young and old entrepreneurs, and they're collaborating on the new trends and new things of the future. And they're creating associations to do all this kind of stuff. And it's a spin-off of a program in Akron that's been around 25 years called Leadership Akron.
I'm familiar with that one.
And you have to apply and be selected, and they select 25 to 50 people from various industries, and they school them on leadership principles. And then they also must do things in the community to learn what's actually going on in the community. But corporate people of small companies and large companies are together. And all we don't get the news from all over the country. Sandy and I have been watching BBC. We have Spectrum TV, and we watch BBC channel 362, I think, or 8. And we hear the news of what's going on around the world. But it seems like our people in the United States are making the biggest strides, and we're coming together the biggest. I mean, that's what I'm feeling anyways.
Yeah, definitely American entrepreneurship and capitalism. We're solving problems. That's what we do best, But now the imminent need for something to be capitalized on, it's not easy money for entrepreneurs, and whether they're making money or not, we're designed to solve problems. So it isn't easy. This is the problem. How do we solve it?
It's a clear problem.
It's clear.
Hi, Mark.
All right.
Hey guys, how's it
Hi,
going?
Mark.
Very
But I
clear.
wonder,
I like Mark's beard. Very clear.
I wonder
Good job.
if those people, like my customers on the phone, they tell me they don't have cell phones, they don't have computers, they don't have tablets, they've just got their landline. They said they don't want anything to do with this new technology. It seems to me like if they don't get into this technology somehow, some way, they're not gonna really make any strides towards getting through this, it seems like.
No, you're absolutely right. They have to do that. Laura has been temporarily transitioned to HR at her company, and
Mhm.
they need to hire 300 people a week. InfoCision Management Corporation, and she's conducting Zoom interviews or Skype, and she did 10 of those yesterday. And so if you know of anybody that needs a job, they must have a landline and a computer, and ask for an interview. But
That's why I can't do it, because I don't have that.
yeah,
Because Laura texted me the first day she was doing it. I'm like, okay.
InfoCision landed a contract with the government for $1 million a week.
Mm.
Hiring one.
$1 million a week. And the telemarketing is for responses to what you need to know about the virus, and how to get with the government stuff. And it's not product selling, it's informational telemarketing.
Really info decision.
Yeah, it really is info decision.
But
Oh,
$1
ow.
million a week.
That's pretty wild.
It is.
I'll take that contract.
Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
I am great. How are you guys doing? I had a couple family. I had to get a hold of a couple of family members, kind of stay social and stuff like that. So that's why I kind of ran over a little bit, but
Well, don't run
glad
over.
to be here. Huh?
I said, don't run over your family.
No. I contacted a few family members just kind of to see what's going. Not in home because I can see them, but other family members just kind of see how they're doing, things are going on. So yeah.
Well, hey, how are things at your office, your plant that you're overseeing and leading in that capacity? What's happened from last week to this week? I'm sure you actually have like some different changes and whatnot.
Well, we let's see. Oh wait, me and another supervisor, we implemented some changes to kind of help with the lower numbers that we have. It's helped out a lot. And right now it's kind of slowed down a little bit because it's the end of the quarter. So after the quarter ends, which was yesterday, so we're kind of like now we're ramping into a new quarter. So it usually is slow those first few days. But right now we don't really we don't know what everyone's going to do when it comes to, since this stay at home thing has lasted till May 1st now. So it could impact a little bit of what we end up doing going forward. But we got a good plan in place. I think kind of shifting some bodies around to some of the areas that are maybe a little slower. So then we're shifting some of those bodies over to areas that are a little that are still picking up. So right now it's kind of helped out a lot. So yeah, me and another guy named Greg, we kind of been spearheading that. So it's been working though. So other than that, yeah, everything's kind of optimistic. But I think business is a little bit down for this time of year, just because of the uncertainty. But we're getting through though. We're getting through it.
Where you going?
Nice. Good to hear. Yeah, I think one of the uncertain things isn't necessarily people that are like in your position who can get the work done, are gonna, make malleable changes. It's kind of on the purchasing end. How is the sales team gonna do it? Are the people gonna be buying the product, or are they gonna clasp in and not spend as much money? So
And that's kind of like in the meetings we've had is the forecasts doesn't look really strong to start off the quarter, just because, I mean, people aren't going to be rushing to maybe order. A lot of our stuff is construction based. So like, unless it goes into a point where they're trying to, who knows if they're trying to have to build hospitals or things like that, they want to, really ramp up, maybe the size of add a wing on some hospitals because of whatever they may need. Right now, it's a lot of these sales are like, they're already from maybe, 2 months prior. So like now their orders are coming in. So it's kind of a lot. I think it's a little bit of it's dropped off. Usually they have a little pickup, but right now a lot of this stuff is stuff that's already with sales, like maybe from 2 months prior. So it is where it's at right now. But they were forecasting this quarter already. Even this was 3 months ago when we had our beginning of the year. The thing we weren't really expecting to really hit hard, busy until usually it was probably around the May area anyway. So I'm just interested to see how this turns out because they're expecting May to be busy and then all this comes down. So it's kind of where we're at right now. But other than that, I mean, with the less bodies, it's helped because it's kept people busy. Because if we had our full amount of people in there, it might be a little bit of a struggle just because of keeping work for people and keeping them going throughout the day. But with us having less bodies there, it helped us a little bit because then we had enough work for everyone, so we didn't have to maybe send people home or something like that. So other than that, it's been pretty strong. So.
All right. Nice. Well, good to hear. Yeah. Sometimes, like Gary, myself, and Marissa, sometimes we might get caught up in everybody's in quarantine and life changes. But some people like you, Mark, and Donna, y'all are still going to work and, you're just not going out in the evenings, which realistically, how often do we go out in the evenings sometimes, right? Sometimes.
Not often.
Yeah.
No comment. No, I just wonder if our government going forward is going to really take into consideration everything that has happened, and will they try and make better plans? I mean, we've always had plans for terrorist attacks since 9/11. They've devoted their entire infrastructure is not the right word. I don't know what the right word is, but they've in-depth developed terrorist plans. Now will they make more in-depth plans for viruses, those things that we don't know?
They have. They have. That was a big thing that I remember Donald Trump talking about right when a lot of this was happening, which was there was no plan to deal with this type of pandemic. But now that we're going through this during the process, they're setting up for the next pandemic 100 years from now or whenever, which I don't even know how this would be applicable then. Can't even think of what 100 years from today is going to look like technologically and population size and all that stuff. But regardless, yes, I think they're doing a better job planning and updating it for that. I know there is a TED Talk by Bill Gates, and he says we're not prepared for the next pandemic or epidemic. He did it 8 years ago as a TED Talk. And he talked about virus. He talked about how it's going to spread, pretty much predicted what's happening. And TED, the actual TED company, not TED Talk X, not TEDx Talks, TED also uploaded it. And within like a day, they had like 1 million views because it was just so, I'm talking about that. It's kind of an infrastructure, but it's really just navigation. It's having a plan. And, Bill Gates is now deemed an expert on different ways because of that. Gary, have you seen that TED Talk?
Yes, I did. But Sandy and I also read 3 books that there was a book called 1 Second. And these books were recommended to us by Deb Stewart. And the first book was called 1 Second After. And the world was just like we have had it. And all of a sudden, an electronic, what they call EMP, was set off. and it damaged everything in 3/4 of the world. And anything that was over a 1978 vehicle or anything that had a computer did not work because it was the EMP, and they have these devices. The governments have these devices. It destroyed all communications, anything that had a computer in it, and they went back to rural America. They had to raid museums to gather things and read books about how did people live in the 1800s. How did they farm? How did they do that? How did they can? How did they do? And then the second book was 1 year after. It took a full year in this book for them to get some communications, and then to start forming co-ops and associations and start to work together. And then the third book was a couple years after.
The final day.
The final day, where it all comes back to kind of normal. But who could possibly plan for a disaster of this magnitude or something even greater, that could possibly come our way? And the things, I like to study trends. I like to study events. And our 13-year-old and our 16-year-old are going to have a different life than you guys have and we have.
Absolutely.
And what trend is going to stick? Like what you were saying, Donna. What will come out of this that will be adopted as the future? And I don't think any of us know that for sure. People our age that have successful careers and are retired and on Social Security, this isn't hitting us as hard as it's going to hit your guys' age. Because you're still growing your families or getting ready to start a family, growing a career, and you've got 30, 40, 50 years to figure out what it's going to be like when you become our age. And so it's a different perspective for people our age. I don't know if I said that right, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that, Gary. I put on Facebook today, my thoughts just tend to run rampant, and I write what I feel. And I was thinking that this virus was a wake-up call from God, not for the unbelievers, but for us who believe, to wake up and straighten up, as I put it. We got to come together in prayer. How do we expect unbelievers to get through this if we're not solidly in love and trusting God and having faith in God? If we don't pull it back together, like it says in Jeremiah, if my people who are called by my name will turn from their wicked ways, I will hear and heal their land. Well, if we're not responding the way God wants, we can't help the others. And that's how I look at this virus.
how can these pastors of mega churches continue on with these mass services all over the country? There's a big service going to take place in Florida and Louisiana and Texas.
I think I heard in Pittsburgh too. There's a church in Pittsburgh, I think, that was planning to have they called it a Woodstock type Easter service.
Yeah.
To where they were just unbelievable amount of people. I think it all comes down to your own. You have to have your own responsibilities. I mean, if you feel it's not safe, I know the pastor should make the call on that, but me personally, if we were still having service, I probably would step out and not go. It's just my personal thing, but I think we have to have our own responsibilities and answer that ourselves. But it's a shame that the pastor isn't leading properly by not saying we're gonna do this online. This is the age where we have this technology, we can use it. Let's take advantage of it. And that's kind of where it's frustrating that a church wouldn't take advantage of the technology that we have.
I got invited to a men's meeting tomorrow night, and we're going to do it online from another church. There's going to be 120 people at a men's meeting doing just what we're doing tonight.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
It's pretty awesome.
I had a customer call me this week, and I didn't give her any indication that I was Christian. We talked a little bit about my cancer and stuff, and she says, "You know, Donna, I know somebody who can help you with that." She says, "He's a healer." And I go, "Okay." She says, "He heals in silence. He sends out these waves to people, and all you have to do is send me your picture, and I can show it to him, and he'll heal you in silence." And I went, "Oh, Lord. All the charlatans are going to come out now." That's a scary thought, what the world is facing.
Yeah, but we've always faced that. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
But not as strong. I mean, now you just look at, I think about Revelations or wherever Jesus said people are going to be lovers of themselves and do their own things. And it's just like,
But you can see the predicament that we have today is affecting all of us differently. But
oh,
it's the same, but different ways. And so we just got to stay strong.
yep.
Yeah, and not to discredit your point, Donna, that wasn't my goal. My goal is to eliminate fear because, yeah, people are more in a state of fear. When that's the case, you can become more of a prey in the economic world. So, yes, charlatans might be more rampant.
Pray,
Yeah.
don't be prey.
Yes, prey, don't be a prey.
Yeah.
So, but healers and palm readers and what was that, tarot
Tarot cards.
card,
Mm-hmm.
those are always existent. Like they've been around since Jesus' day and before that even, right? Really since like,
Adam and Eve.
yeah, Adam and Eve. Thank you. So essentially, I was just stating that yes, people like Gary mentioned are in a state of fear, perhaps, but staying strong is the answer to where you don't fall into those traps. And I can't help you other than how I am right now. You have to choose to be strong. And those around you, your coworkers, they're probably weaker now, And the gal next to you who has the picture on her desk of a serene place, like she might be in a state today of, oh my gosh, I'm never going to reach peace. I'm never going to reach rest. She might be more open to hearing how you have peace throughout all the madness. Like now, that's a better opportunity than ever.
Mark, how's your owners of your company embracing the changes to their employees? Are they fearful, helpful, encouraged, discouraged?
Well,
I've only met the owner one time, so the owner is hard because our headquarters are in Minnesota, so we don't see but I would say my direct manager that's in our actual building, it's been open communication, which has been good. I mean, daily updates of the plans, this and that, just reminders. Just they're making a big point. Social distancing been a big, huge point of just making sure that you limit how you have to encounter and how close they are. They've been really good at that. We've tried to because there's different areas where people do have to work a little bit closer together. What we've done is we've implemented different ways to keep them away from each other to where they don't have to work right on top of each other. But I would say they've done the communication since this has all came about has been probably the best set of communication they've ever had as a company. So they've embraced it pretty well. And it's I think for the most part, most of the people are good with it. I think they're happy with the transparency during anything that was going on. And I think they're I don't know I think they're optimistic. Like I said earlier about the sales and stuff like that. I think all that stuff's going to work itself out. Not really a concern on anyone's mind on that, but all in all, I think they've done a good job in my opinion on how they've ran it.
So my question.
I was thinking about,
Ow, come on.
if this would have happened back when I owned my company, I had 26 full-time employees and about 10 part-time. And I was trying to think, what would I do? How would I pay 26 people?
Well, I would say find a loophole so you can keep them as essential.
Well, I have a question. I once learned that in entrepreneurship, when you start your own company, you're lucky if you break even the first couple of years. It's not until like your fourth or fifth year that you actually begin having your company make a profit. Do you think this is going to break that margin, or will they be able to stay on like that plan?
I think
understand
you heard the doctors talk about bending the curve. the curve is going to be bent way down. And it's going to take years for these companies to recover. And I was listening to an entrepreneur that builds restaurants, independent restaurants, not chain restaurants. And he was saying that the future of the restaurant business will be 50% capacity. So if he was using the term, at lunchtime, if you turned 100 orders at lunch, say 11 to 1, the future will be 50 orders. And the future will not support that organization. They will not be able to make it on 50 orders at lunchtime. And so I think that's what the entrepreneur of the future is going to have to do that. It's going to, they're indicating that at least 40% of all the colleges in America are going to close. There's too many of them. And with social media, professors can teach you at home. So there's going to be a big reduction in education and those kinds of things. But also, one of the TED Talks we talked about is the generation that's 10 to 13 years old are going to be working in industries that have not been created yet. so that's the imagination of the future.
How can you understand that, Donna?
Yeah.
It's just the law of what's the word I'm thinking of? Exponential. That's the word. Exponential, right? Just like the growth of the virus, where it doubles every 6 days, what they were saying anyways.
In the insurance business, we call that law of inverse numbers.
Okay.
The more numbers there are, the cheaper the product is, or that kind of thing. Called law of inverse numbers. In
the technology world, because that's one of my companies is a technology one, is that the technology that we're dealing with today doubles as far as the ability to understand deeper technology. There's something called machine learning, which has been at it for a while now. Well, now people are calling it artificial intelligence. Okay, there's augmented reality, and then there's virtual reality, and then there's artificial intelligence with augmented reality and with virtual reality. So there's
Mhm.
stuff that hasn't been developed because the market is simply not ready for it yet. Not because the technologies or industries aren't there yet. It's simply because it's not a true distribution of market, like car dealerships is an industry. But
Mhm.
virtual reality isn't an industry today because it's not big enough. So the technology exists today, but by the time Carson reaches the end of college, or 25 years old, that might be an industry, or by the time he's 35, virtual reality will probably be its own industry, just like video games wasn't an industry, but video games was just a product. Then it moved into being an industry where literally there is the Olympics of video game players. There's tournaments by video game players.
Well, the social media technology like we're using today is going to really hurt the real estate industry because people are now know they can work from home, carry on seminars, and do the things that we're doing. And there's not going to be a need for that 100-suite office building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not right now, but it may come back.
Well, but the bending of the curve is going to take a longer period of time as new things wipe out old things.
Oh yeah, she had a good point, which was there's always going to be that in-person human contact that we desire as humans, and we're seeing this in quarantine. So I agree with both what Gary said and what Marissa just said. We're always going to desire that, but sometimes when the costs of renting that facility are ridiculous, we'll just go online as an alternative. So that'll lessen the cost. So for the commercial real estate won't be as profitable on the renting side because now they're not just competing with other real estate properties. They're now competing with Zoom for $15.
That's going to affect the airlines as well. Instead of me being in Los Angeles talking to you like we're doing tonight, I can do it like this instead of me flying to Akron, Ohio to have a meeting with Mark.
But sometimes that takes away the personality. It takes away from the body language that is perceived when you can meet face to face. I mean, even when we dress, I mean, heck, I got pajama pants on and my sweatshirt. Would I have dressed like this for church in class? No.
Yeah.
But it's going to change the whole perception. I mean, body language is really important in stuff like this in business, and you can't read a person's body language just from here up.
Do you know what a hologram is?
Yeah.
So that's not too far away. That's something that Carson will be doing meetings on that in his career. Where
Oh, good. I can be photoshopped then and look good.
I mean,
Laura conducted 10 interviews today for her company, and she got up, did her hair, put her makeup on, put her nice blouse and everything on, and had pajama bottoms on.
Exactly.
She was laughing about that today.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I like that. That's what I do.
I'd be like, Andrew, are we doing a video meeting with that person or a phone call? It's gonna look different.
I'm gonna post in the Facebook group a funny meme that I created of exactly what you're talking about. Anyways, let's wrap this up, guys, because I think this is good. I think it's always good to hear y'all's thoughts on the matter.
I have one prayer request for us, Andrew.
You have one what?
One prayer request. It's really important.
Yeah.
It's about Jim Dial.
Okay.
They've moved him to hospice up in Suma. They think, they're not 100% sure, but they think he's got COVID. And hospice is being called in now. So it's not much longer.
Okay. So just comfort for Beverly.
Comfort for Bev. I mean, I talked to her the other night. She said Jim said he's tired and he's ready to go home. And she's accepted that, but not being able to be there at the end because of how fragile she is. Yeah. Missy got in to see him last night. They suited her all up and she got to go in, but from what I'm understanding, that's not an option for Bev.
I pray that there's a way that she can be with him during the last days.
Yep.
Gary, do you want to pray for Jim and Beverly?
I will.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Lord, for our group that we've been able to meet tonight and just have interaction. We pray for our friend Bev and Jim. We pray that your hand will be upon Jim and Beverly. If it's his time to be taken up to meet with you, I'm very sure that he's ready to do that. But Lord, bless the family and do it in a way that will honor Jim and yourself, Lord, and Beverly. We ask this in thy name. Amen.
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 Yeah, Nancy texted us about that earlier. It was this morning, I think.
Last night.
Last night or this morning. So,
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I also want to say that depending on how things go with Arlington gathering back together, I know Dave is going to be cautious and err on the side of caution with us having an older demographic of members. So the odds of us getting to do another in-person meeting for us this semester is getting lower. So how would y'all feel if we did the Law of Legacy next week on Wednesday here on Zoom? Would y'all be okay with that?
Yes, just please remind me.
All right.
Yeah, remind me too.
It's like you don't keep track of the days of the week very well when it's all confusing. So
It is. I've lost my train of thought of what
It
the
doesn't
day
get on
is.
my calendar. I forget about it.
well, I was like downstairs. I was like, Andrew, are we doing that thing? It's like Wednesday.
Well, I was gonna say, I was thinking, maybe I think meet Thursday, and you guys do Adam and Eve, and I would be the tour guide for us during that. If you'd like to, Donna, you could have a practice round. Even gives you a year in advance practice round of being a tour guide.
Oh, I was so terrified to take that on. I'll just save the script for next
my
year.
wife has been continuing to refurbish and rehab the costumes for Road to Resurrection.
Yeah.
She's washed them all, hemmed them, cleaned them, added accessories to them, and she's just putting them in boxes for the future. So
That's great.
Did I hear Donald Trump say anything about making a special exception for Easter? Did I hear that correct? Did y'all hear anything about that?
he said that a week or two ago, but he took so much flack from all the press people that he's backed off of. He hasn't said that. He said the other day, he says, I'm trying to give people hope.
Yeah.
And you're asking me questions about desperation and the worst case scenarios and all. He says, my job is to give hope. And that's what our Lord said. I'm not calling Donald Trump Lord. We have to have hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when he made that statement though about Easter, I think he was trying to maybe give a little boost into the, because the stock market's been plummeting so much, and after he made that announcement, it did bump up. And it was almost like investors and everyone in there, they're waiting for it, they want it, but it's kind of like right now, I think it was kind of like maybe something like that just to kind of give us a little boost, and like you said, hope, have that hope of having that time that we know we can meet up again, assemble together. And I mean, I think it's something we're looking forward to, but we have to be smart about it.
The first part of the meeting today was talking about other things other than the virus. The Mexican cartels and other countries are now trying to bring huge amounts of product into the country, and he's put the military on alert. They're adding like 20 boats to the east and the west coast to stop the flood of narcotics coming into the United States. And then they were talking about how this virus is affecting our military. Well, I don't know if Mark, were you ever in the military or anything?
Mm-hmm.
No, I was not.
Okay.
My mom made a point to make sure when I actually had a meeting, and the recruiting officer came to my house, and my mom said, "We're not having any of this." So, yeah. So I originally was going to go, but she kind of had the final say. So
I was in the U.S. Navy, and I was on a guided missile cruiser that had 3,500 men
Mm.
on it, and we slept in bunks, 3 bunks high,
Hmm.
and we had to eat our lunches and dinners in shifts. There's that many people. There's an aircraft carrier at sea that has 3,500 men affected with this virus.
Ooh.
It holds 6,000 people. It's a nuclear carrier. And so they're trying to figure out how to get those men off of that ship and get treated and keep the ship afloat for security of the world. And so think about living in one place with 6,500 men and women.
My son said they have closed Fort Bragg down. The only thing open is absolutely necessary. He said, "Mom, I can't even get a haircut on base now. Things are so tight down on Bragg."
Yeah.
So it's hit the bases as well.
Well, everybody finished?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Good to see your faces, everybody. Take care.
Signing
all right,
off.
see you guys.
Have a good
Bye.
week.
All right, good night.
Good night.